series of all time. The series is now over 35 years old and has remained a part of popular culture, an adventure for everyone striving to better themselves. In 1984, Akira Toriyama finished his biggest and most successful work at the time, Dr. Slump. What he did not know was that the success he had with Aurelia and her friends would pale in comparison to his next work. But why did Toriyama create Dragon Ball? In 1983, Toriyama knew that he was nearing the end of Dr. Slump, wanting to end it soon. He was told that he could end it only if he would have something new to serialize within 3 months. And still during publication of Dr. Slump, the then 28-year-old Akira Toriyama spent the time thinking about what to create next. He ended up in many meetings with his editor at the time, Kazuhiko Torishima. Toriyama was obsessed with martial arts films, and in particular Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. He mentioned this to Torishima, who told him to give kung fu action manga a try. The stubborn mangaka refused, explaining that
the things I like and the things I want to draw are different, so I don't want to.
Torishima pushed him to try it, even if Toriyama insisted that he's more inclined to a gag manga. But after such a long time creating self-contained stories each chapter, Toriyama decided to not only give martial arts stories a try, but to make his next manga a continuous serialized story. It was decided, and Toriyama began to work on a concept, but he couldn't simply jump into new things. He first needed to test the waters with a proto-Dragon Ball. As Toriyama explains,
I drew a one-shot called Dragon Boy that got an incredibly positive response from the readers, so I decided to go that route for my next serialized work.
Dragon Boy was a 2-part manga about Tang Tong, a young martial artist who is sent on a journey to return a princess to Flower Country. He is given a Dragon Ball, an artifact that can bring forth a mini dragon. This story served as Toriyama's dipping his toes into the martial arts pool, and many of the concepts would be used later. For example, the setting and scenes like Master Roshi being hit in the head with a blade. Similarly, that same year, he also published The Adventures of Tongpu. This one-shot manga served as another way for Toriyama to test things out. Things such as capsules, designs, and even events, like the protagonist being shot at a first meeting, all eventually carried over to Dragon Ball. Dr. Slump was very much a Western-inspired series. Toriyama has a big love for many things American, like movies, but it was time for change.
So we wanted to have the story operate in a very different world from that of Dr. Slump. So the opposite of California for me was something like China. I wanted to make the whole thing completely different, in fact. The opposite of Dr. Slump. The protagonist wouldn't be a girl, but a boy. Move the setting from California to China. Change the focus from comedy to story.
They looked into one of the most important literary works in Asia for inspiration, Journey to the West. Journey to the West is a Chinese novel from 1592 that features the Monkey King Sun Wukong. Torishima explained that after Dragon Ball, Torishima and even Toriyama's own wife thought it was too similar to Journey to the West, and rejected it. Torishima thought that
there needs to be a very strong emotional connection from the reader to the protagonist, that they see themselves as that character. So, if the protagonist in Dragon Ball was a monkey, which was the original plan, then no one could relate to that.
the flying rocket remained in the next iteration, but that was about it. The Monkey King was turned into a human with spiky hair, dressed as a schoolboy, while the cowgirl became a gun-wielding city girl. Pieces of Dragon Ball as we know it began to take shape. In particular, Goku looks almost as he will in the final draft. Toriyama was dead set on the name for the main character, Son Goku. One of the main problems with this draft was the fact that there was no edge to Goku, and he looked bland.
I wanted him to have some kind of distinguishing characteristic. The protagonist in Dragon Boy had wings, so I wanted a distinguishing characteristic in that sense, where you could tell it was him just by looking. So I gave Goku a tail, so even if he was hidden behind a rock, if you could still see his tail, you'd know that it was Goku.
Goku was Son Wukong, Bulma was Tripitaka, Oolong was Zhu Beiji, and Yamcha was Sha Wujing. Sorry for the mispronunciation. The parallels to Journey to the West were apparent, so those changes were necessary. Thus, based off of women's underwear, and made sexier to comply with the editor demands. The idea of the new versions for the Dragon Balls was also born around this time, though originally there were 8 rather than 7. According to Toriyama, he decided to subtract.
I don't know why.
Wish. The anime began on the 26th of February 1986, while the manga was 63 chapters in. The rest, as they say, is history. Toriyama would go on to have great success, in particular starting from the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai arc. But there is one more piece of the puzzle I wanted to mention. Dragon Ball wouldn't be the same with